I'm Debbie Boone from the Greater Lincolnshire LEP, and I'm here today with some of our Greater Lincolnshire apprentices for the first of what we hope will be a series of conversations exploring the world of apprenticeships. So whether you're considering starting an apprenticeship, whether you're already employed and wanting to explore how an apprenticeship can further your career, we hope that the conversation we have today will give you some of those answers. So I suppose we ought to start with talking about what an apprenticeship is. How would we define an apprenticeship?
An apprenticeship is basically you're going, instead of going to like the college, the university route, you're gaining employment and learning whilst you're learning, earning whilst you're learning. Sorry.
So yeah, that's really a key feature, isn't it? That you're earning whilst you're doing your qualification.
Definitely, yeah.
And any other ways in which an apprenticeship?
I suppose I'd think of it as a work-based qualification, because I think for me an apprenticeship is really the emphasis on actually being in the workplace and getting the experience. The qualification, it's about experience at the end of the day.
Definitely, yeah. You're getting that hands-on experience in everyday life, really, aren't you?
So we've got the fact that you're earning whilst you're learning and that you're gaining a qualification whilst you're working. How else does an apprenticeship, do you think, differ from a traditional academic route?
I think it helps a lot with your confidence with things. Going into the workplace that you're hopefully wanting to enjoy, compared to going to school or sixth form, it will show you if it is something that you want to progress into.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, Kieran?
I think there's a lot more freedom to how you can join an apprenticeship. So it could be that you're going into a business to join as an apprentice, or it could be something that you do as part of your professional development and journey that way. So I think there's so many different routes and so many ways that you can do things that in universities or colleges you'd be doing in quite a uniform way. So there's a lot of different ways that you can experience it.
Yeah, I think certainly for me, when I was doing my apprenticeship, one of the things I found really useful was that it was quite flexible in terms of how long it was going to take me to complete. And I know that was really important for me.
You have a lot more control over your deadlines. They're kind of set by you, so you can put it around the day-to-day work, which is a benefit, I think. Yeah,
definitely benefit for most. Not necessarily for me. Actually, not so good at time management. It's one of the challenges I found for me, not having very strict deadlines, but it is definitely a benefit for most people being able to manage their own sort of workload that way. In terms of your own personal growth, what do you think being an apprentice has given you? What sort of personal growth and skills have you gained, or are you gaining?
I'm gaining a lot more independence with things. Seeing as I work in the hospital, it's the independence of doing jobs by myself now instead of always having somebody with me and guiding me to do those things. It's me now doing them or guiding other people, which then will help with my skills with that, teaching somebody else.
Yeah, and it's such a good opportunity to develop that.
Absolutely.
I think I've gained confidence dealing with different employers, different apprentices at an apprenticeship provider. I feel like, obviously coming across, trying to be really professional and things, I feel like my confidence every time I talk to someone new is slowly getting better, which is very nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think for me, again, confidence, but I think it's also kind of the knowledge and feeling that actually, particularly the apprenticeship that I'm doing, there's so many different modules and different things that I'm covering, and actually I feel like there's times that I come back to the organisation, I'm in different meetings, and I feel like I actually understand the language a bit more now. And also, I don't know about you, but we've had to do quite a lot of presentations, and I've become a lot better at presentations. There's a lot less and pause and stuff, so I've definitely gained confidence both in knowledge and also the presentations as well.
Yeah, I think putting that theoretical knowledge into practice is really interesting, and seeing the theoretical things that you read about and then seeing how they actually play out in a professional scenario is quite useful.
Yeah, that's actually a really key difference, isn't it, from going sort of down a pure degree route. Actually immediately putting into practice the theory that you're learning. That's such a big benefit.
So I think that's why you understand it so much better, is because you're putting it into your actual scenario at work.
Yeah. I think for me, it's been learning off my peers on the course as well. They're all from very different employers. So it's been great kind of getting an insight into what they do and learning different sort of ways of approaching things, which has been great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've been talking about benefits to us as apprentices, but what about benefits to your employers of you doing an apprenticeship? What would you say they are gaining from this?
I think that it's a really good thing that they can discuss and they can promote to people about the employee value proposition that they're offering. So I think some companies will boast about some of the statutory entitlements that you get as one of their unique selling points. But when companies do an apprenticeship and they've got so much more to offer and they're putting that investment into you, then it just shows that they are actually a valuable employer and that they value their employees.
Yeah, definitely puts them in front of maybe other employers. Are there any other benefits?
I also think it brings a fresh mindset into the organisation. So obviously brings new ideas in, new creativity and things like that. I definitely think that's what an apprentice brings to the organisation 100%.
And have any of you found that what you've learnt on your apprenticeship you can actually see now being applied at work?
Yeah, I've had that quite a few different times. I think particularly because I'm the only person on my course that's coming from local government. They're all private sector or different areas of the public sector, and being able to see kind of in discussions in the classroom, understanding how they do things. And I've come back a few times, spoke to my manager and said, they do their surveys like this at this place, or they do these things slightly differently. And it's sometimes, even if people at the organisation already know that, it can be quite helpful to come back on a sense check of, are we still doing it the way we think we should be doing it?
That's a really big benefit, isn't it? That sort of extended value that you can bring. Absolutely. Anything else?
I think as a networking opportunity as well with your peers. It's so interesting to see the other side of things. So, for example, on my degree apprenticeship, there's people that work for some of our suppliers. So it's good to kind of see it from their side as well.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting.
I think actually a lot of apprentices say that networking has been so useful to them. Have you found that, Sophie, that?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing I was going to mention was retention for an employer in general. I think if they're investing in their colleagues, because myself, I didn't join as an apprentice. I was asked if I'd like to do one, and it's definitely made me, want to stick around, look at doing other qualifications afterwards, and then I think it has a knock-on effect as well because other colleagues will see that and think, oh, I want to do something similar.
Yeah. So the whole sort of upskilling of the organisation is there, isn't it? So, I've already sort of mentioned one of my challenges was around managing my time when I was doing my apprenticeship. What have you had any challenges, or are you experiencing any challenges whilst you're doing your apprenticeship?
I think for me, it's sometimes at my level, the kind of volume of assessments you can have sometimes. I hand one thing in and I immediately start the next module. So it can, and you can coming from completely different areas. So I can study marketing one week and then I've got to jump straight into finance. And I found it challenging to kind of keep up with the pace of the assessments, but my employer and my manager have been really, really supportive. And I've also actually just found it quite energising of actually being able to jump into different modules at different times. But we also have flexible working at my place. So I've been able to take full advantage of that at times when I've needed to dip into different assessments at different days. I
think that's another benefit of an apprenticeship, isn't it? That you get that 20% off the job to actually focus on your assignments and your learning and your reflections.
I also think with an apprenticeship, you've got smaller groups than colleges and universities. So you are getting that one-to-one support anyway.
Yeah.
So if you do have you need any help with further assignments or anything, your tutor is there and they can sit with you in the session. If you're like, I really need help with this question or anything, you know that you've got your tutor there instead of like 30, 50 others in that classroom.
Yeah.
One thing I did find quite challenging was when I first started my apprenticeship. I started it when I was 16. So then going into that workplace with other professionals, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing, like I don't know where to start. But over time that did come a lot easier, and from the support of the other staff members as well with it all. I think it was just that initial starting point and having to mature with it as well.
I think when we was chatting earlier, you said that's one of the best things that you got out of your apprenticeship,
Definitely.
is that developing your interpersonal skills.
Definitely.
Because you speak to so many different people.
Yeah, and all the different like walks of life that people have as well into their professions.
Yeah.
And being allowed to shadow other professionals it's amazing sometimes. with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I think for me, the biggest challenge was figuring out how I needed to get my my assignments done. So the method of whether it's going to be sort of little often or that one day a week. I sort of thought innocently, oh, it's going to be like when I was at uni the first time round, but actually it was very different because you've got the full-time job as well.
Yes.
And it took me a while to get into that flow of what worked best. And then I think for me, making the most of the resources that you have around you, that's really benefited my learning. And I found it actually better to have one day a week, one full day, as opposed to just, an hour a day.
Yeah.
Because then I was actually fully focused as opposed to getting distracted by my sort of business as usual.
Yeah. I think that certainly worked for me as well. If you was thinking about people considering starting an apprenticeship, wherever they are in their life, whether they're starting one at 16 or like me in my 50s, what would you say to someone in terms of encouraging them to pursue exploration of apprenticeships?
I'd maybe say keep an open mind, do your research, and take your time to actually think about what it is that you want to get from it. So I had quite a clear plan of, I want to progress in the organisation. There's some key skills I want to develop. How can I go about that? And when I was doing my research, I came across the apprenticeship that I'm now doing, but it is a commitment in and of itself. And you should probably take the time to actually be quite curious, look into different providers and different apprenticeships, because there's so many out there as well.
I think it's also good to have those conversations with colleagues who've been through an apprenticeship as well, and also speaking to your line manager, for example, because if they're going to be the one supporting you, you need to make sure you're on the same page and you agree that, okay, this is the amount of time I'm going to spend on it, and how will you support me, what works best. I think it's important to establish that from the start.
Yeah.
I think you've got to have the confidence as well when you're going into it, that you can't be scared of everything that you're going to come across, because you won't know what to expect with the next thing. Unless obviously you do speak to other people with it, but you still won't know exactly what you're walking into almost. So it's just having that confidence and to try and grow with the apprenticeship as well.
I mean, I certainly found it to be such an amazing gift of an opportunity. I didn't have to pay for it. And so for me, that was a real sort of great opportunity. So thank you ever so much for taking part in our first conversation, and hopefully we'll be doing it all again soon.